difficulties, but always know that your plan never has fault in it. Dear Heavenly Father, we just ask you to continue agenda. There are a couple of modifications I would ask that we do. We do have everything here, but if possible, we would move item under section 4 of the board minutes. Item 4, which is superintendent recognition, that we would move it up to where it would be listed as number 4. So that we do our recognitions before executive session, if that's okay, everyone?
Could you give us the numbers, Roman numeral 1?
Yes, sir. We're looking to change and bring up item number, excuse me, yes, 7A4. Item number 4. And then closed determination becomes 5, and then move down from there. And then, board, there was a request that by Dr. Lovat that we add consideration to increase the budget for the bicentennial celebration on that. So, and we will list it as number 1, let's see, under section, it's under section 11C, and we'll put it as number 9 into that chain after COVID-19 update. Is that okay with everyone? Consideration to increase budget for bicentennial. Is everyone okay with adding those items? Okay, so based upon those adjustments in the agenda we have before us, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda. So moved. Has been motioned by Dr. Shoemake. Do I have a second? Has been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Now we go to our next item, which is going to be the recognition. Dr. Lovat, let me get back over here to it. Superintendent recognition of the Teacher of the Year, Administrator of the Year, and non-certified employee. Dr. Lovat, turn it over to you.
And I apologize, but due to social distancing, I will ask the Board of Trustees to probably just take a picture in front of your seats as we acknowledge each one of our esteemed employees. We'll start off with our Teacher of the Year. It's my esteemed pleasure to introduce our Teacher of the Year from Franklin Academy, Ms. Syracuse. Ms. Fish, how many years of teaching?
29 years.
Congratulations, thank you.
The number keeps getting larger and larger.
Congratulations. All right, thank you. Next, we'll recognize our Administrator of the Year. It's my esteemed pleasure to recognize Mr. Craig Chapman as our Administrator of the Year. All right, I have an omission. I didn't know your first name was Dennis. But congratulations to Dennis Cookie Bailey for all your hard work as our non-certified employee of the year. Congratulations. Congratulations. I just wanted to talk about how great these employees are and what they do for our school district on our board, on behalf of the board of trustees and I. We just want to thank you for all your hard work and commitment to our students. We appreciate you, we value you, and we're glad that you chose us. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for putting in the effort and, showing up every day, and most importantly, making the difference in the children's lives. I mean, from every little thing that you do, it doesn't go unnoticed, and thank you so much for all your continued support of the children of the district. Thank you. Board, our next item on tonight's agenda is closed determination for executive session. Because we have a student matter, our policy has been to take those matters at the first meeting in consideration of the students. So if I could, I need a motion to go into closed determination. So moved. That's been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Hearing no Vote. That brings us back to tonight's agenda, which is the school board minutes. And board, if we could, we'll take the November 4th, November the 9th, and November 30th minutes all as one motion. I need a motion to approve minutes. Has been motioned by Ms. Cox. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Young. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. This part we'd already moved up. So next we go to the trustee travel and discussion. Board, is there any trustee travel we need to discuss? I know we didn't necessarily attend, but we did go to the, or some of us went to the MSBA virtual conference. I thought was very well put together, and with some great programs. Is there anything you would like to share about it? Okay.
I'd like to share.
Yes, Ms. Cox?
With the DOT. Share, please. We'll take a moment. For one thing I wanted to bring out, Dr. Adolph Brown, this excellent presenter. He came out, he was dressed as what we call a thug, with braids, and from the way that he looked, he would have been someone that we wouldn't listen to normally. But when he began to speak, it was like he gained our attention. Can everybody hear me? He really gained our attention. And I wrote this down, what he said. He said, the brain teaches us without permission. The issue is not what the brain does, but what we do with the information it gives us. So the information that our brains was giving us had to do with his what? His appearance. And that made me think about a lot of our students that are misunderstood by the way they look, you know, and how a person is misjudged a lot of times in our society by the way they may wear their hair. And especially with the braids or the natural look this day and time, that's caused a lot of controversy today. He said a lot. I'm gonna leave him and I'm gonna move on to the other. Bonita Coleman, she always does a very thorough presentation. She's superintendent in Ocean Springs. And she talked about communicating. She said, why do we communicate? You communicate to build trust. And this is something that we have to learn to do every day. Don't do it every now and then, but constantly. And she talked about ways to. She said, we gotta have a platform of communication. We got to know that we have messages to give out. We have to have specific methods set in place. And we also have to do this in a timely manner. I'm gonna move on from hers. I wrote down a lot, and I write this down so I can learn from it myself as how to communicate and how to work better as a board member. Dr. Dobbs did a presentation, and as always, he was telling us everything that he's been saying on all those calls about the mask, social distancing, and everything, and with the numbers and how they are continuously going up along with the deaths. One thing that he said, and then Maggie Wade. Maggie Wade was a news anchor, WLBT, and she had so many heartfelt stories. And she talked about how board members are the gatekeepers. We see the success, not always making decisions that are popular, but we have to do what? We make them that are, say, until the morning light, guide our children to their future. So the decisions that we make has to be upon our children. And she shared where she has a Wednesday's Child program. And with this program, she shared a story about a little girl that she wanted to adopt. She got attached to the little girl, but she wasn't able to adopt her at this particular time. And something happened and the little girl passed away. And that was a learning experience for her to always do what's in your heart to do. And then we went to Jay. And you know what Jay talked about? Jay Harper. All of us know Jay Harper. You know, he was saying about your own identity. And they talked about the legal aspects of branding. Alongside, he did bring up the Columbus Municipal School District, all the different things that he's done for us and where we are now. He represented the district in a very good way, and I wanted to be sure that, you know, that you knew that. And I won't go on further and further, but it's, and all in all, they all had very good, I'll say, attention-getting presentations, although it was virtual. Because I didn't get sleepy sitting there listening at them until I was writing a book. So it was pretty interesting for it to be virtual like that. Thank you for your time.
And I got,
Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to give, and I'm sure Mr. Dunn is already aware of this, the new marijuana issue that passed. So, Dobbs and Myers are working with Jim Keith on coming up with guidance on how that will affect our policies. And the second thing was a very scary presentation by a fellow named Alex Ricardo, the threat landscape for cyber security. So that was also an eye-opener.
And, you know, and I echo on Mr. Brown. I thought that was a very great presentation, and one of the things that still stuck in my mind is he said that our brains are designed to make us efficient, not correct. And, you know, and I had never heard it put that way, that, you know, that it's just a series of processes that the brain goes through to result in an outcome. It's not to necessarily make us feel, you know, with the information processed out to make it a correct decision. And of course, all from beginning to end, I was engaged in his conversation where he said, "Oh, did you think I had a hype man?" That type thing, to the very end of it. It was very engaging. Another part of it that I went to was Ms. Miranda Beard and her Equity and Hope in the Midst of Crisis. I thought was a very well laid out presentation, and one of the graphics that I've seen before that I think she expounded upon was, you know, the children, a tall child, a mid-sized child, and a short child trying to watch a baseball game. And then it was like, you know, to make it equitable, you know, they all had blocks to stand on, even though the taller kids could see better and the small kid could finally see over the fence. But then it was talking about removing those barriers. And instead of having a wood fence they were looking through, it was like a chain link fence. So they didn't need these additional assistances. They could all be what they are and still see the game the same way. So I thought that was a very good presentation, and I'm glad that I got to participate in that conference. So, you know, kudos to MSBA for putting it all together and everything. So, thank y'all for sharing. Next, we go to discussion and consideration of capital improvement plan for the CMSD. Dr. Labat.
At this time, I have Mr. Little just present briefly some of the things that we've talked about as a board in our Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 plan. And you should have received the documentation from the quotes. And Mr. Little's going to give a quick presentation information.
You said we should receive the quote?
Or do we put the quotes inside the board resources?
We don't have any of the documents.
Okay.
We don't have resources in it.
Okay, that's right. We'll get those documents to you. He's gonna summarize today. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. But if you want, certainly go through and share with us, that'd be great.
Okay, all right. Let's see, I'll just start with Capital One. Let's see, this one is for the pressure washing for Fairview around the school. Got two quotes. One was for $1,600. The other quote was for $3,200. That's the pressure washing that repair. The athletic complex, the lighting, I had a meeting with, the guy from Musco that put the lights up at the soccer complex. And what he was telling me is they're not gonna be doing, those are halide lights at the soccer complex. They're not gonna be selling those anymore after June, that he is recommending going to LED. And he said if we wanted to see what the lights would look like, the softball field at MUW is Musco LED lights. If we wanted to see what they look like, he would get with the athletic director of the W and have him cut the lights on one night and just tell him, kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. But his quote is saying, if you use the 40-foot candles, you're looking at anywhere from $230,000 to $250,000. If you use the 50-foot candles, you're looking anywhere from $280,000 to $300,000. The thing about this, if you go with LED, what he was telling me is right now we have 80-something lights. I think it's 21 on each pole. You'll be dropping from 80-something lights down to around 50 to 55 lights. This will put in the specific, you'll have lights that are specifically this setup will have lights that are designated to the bleachers, lights that are designated specifically to the track, and lights for the field. And it also will have lights that shine from the underside, like when the ball's in the air, a lot of times you can lose it in the lights. But the setup that he's talking about is you're not going to have lights shining up from the bottom, catching the underside of the ball. Right now, our lights are just lighting the whole area, but there will be lights specifically for those areas. So that was his prices on that. And that was all he gave me the other day. That. Intercom system at the high school. We have several different ways that this was bid. The first one I'm looking at is replacing all equipment. That's wiring, speakers, push buttons, everything. We have 3 quotes on that. One quote is $124,505. It's Mississippi Alarm. Prime Logic quoted $115,000. And Exceed quoted $145,000. And that is with a 1-year warranty. Parts, everything. That's parts, everything, it's just a 1-year warranty. Then we have 4 quotes on, as we talked about before, if we just replaced, I call it the brains, the box that's back there in the closet that runs everything, but we would still be using the existing wiring, the existing speakers, push buttons, everything. Electronic controls, their quote is $42,238. Netcom wiring, their quote is $28,500. Exceed is $35,500. And Mississippi Alarm is $31,296.
So,
And this will be a warranty on just the parts that they put in.
so the question I heard, you had, of just replacing the brain, there were two companies that did on both.
Yes.
And so, it exceeded the
Mississippi Alarm.
law. And so, did they say if they put in the brains and then they had a failure, they only warranty would work on what they put in, but then would they be able to attach down the line if we figured out that it wasn't going to work?
Mississippi Alarm said that if we wanted to do it this way, that he would warranty the wires and so many speakers for 1 year, even though he is not even put them in. If we had a wire that goes bad, so say 2 years down, or a year, within a year down the road, because it's only for 1 year. You have a wire that goes bad, he said he would come in and trace that wire down, and, repair that for free. But the main warranty is just on what's in that panel box from what everybody else is doing. We have a wire go bad with everybody else, and we're gonna have to pay someone. It wouldn't have to be them, but we'd have to pay someone to trace that wire down. And if it's all the way at the other end of the building, that's a long, over at the northwest end, that's a long way from the wire.
But they said they would do that at that point.
Mississippi Alarm said he would warranty that stuff for 1 year. And, everyone is using Valcom except for Prime Logic. Theirs is a Bogan system. I could not get another quote from Bogan from anybody because they buy from Bogan this area. And no one can come in and put a Bogan system in our area other than Prime Logic. Now, Prime Logic, we have their system in our middle school right now. We haven't had any problems with it. So we have 3 quotes that replace everything. That's wires, speakers, push buttons, everything. And then we have 4 quotes that just replaces the main box that runs everything.
So from the main box, downline, we'll call it, to all the push buttons and everything, is all that hardware intact now?
As of right now, I'm not gonna be 100% sure because we have the system that's in there now. I don't know if because we were losing areas, you'd lose a hallway, and then you would lose another, like a classroom here and there. So I can honestly not say. Now, according to those guys that look at it, they say that they don't think anything's wrong with the wires. And it was just the system was steadily breaking down that we have right now in several different areas. That's why he said if he put this system in, not knowing if a wire was bad or not, he would go ahead and replace that wire for free for 1 year. He's the only one in his bid that said that. Everyone else is, they're only gonna warranty what they put in.
Alright.
Right now, what we have over there, he came in and because they did not have anything that they could talk with, last week, we sat there and put in a system so they can do all calls and announcements, but it only works in the hallway. So they do have something over there right now that they can speak with, if needed.
But if I understood you correctly, if one of these puts in the brains, they're gonna test it out to make sure that it is connecting in all the spots it should be connected.
Yes.
So that
You're talking about
if somebody put the brains in, the box, whatever, they're gonna go through and check that, it should be in this room, in the hallway, and all these other things to make sure it does function properly before they walk away.
but anything that they
But
do.
2 months later, if something happens, it's not doing the hallway or the cafeteria or something else,
Then we'll have to
only
take-
one company said that they would actually come back in and figure out what's going wrong.
Yes.
Correct.
So if somebody has to come back and look at something that's gonna cost us, if it winds up being a wire was bad, or a speaker is bad, or push button or something like that.
Unless it's the entire new system.
Unless it was gutted completely out and replaced. Then there's a 1-year warranty on everything.
Did you have a question?
Yes, I think we had this before, but I cannot remember, so I apologize. Do we know how long we had this current system?
If I'm not mistaken, I was told that is the original system, and it was either put in 93 or 96.
Right now, we paid parking lot. Football field.
That's what everybody that I've talked to has told me, that I think that addition was put in somewhere between 93 and 96, and that was the system put in. Everybody that I've asked, that's what I know.
Do we know the life expectancy of something like the intercom system?
Everyone that I talked to, even the brand new ones, they say 10 to 12 years. Well, now this system has been steadily, little by little, you know, we've been able to patch it some, and we kept it going over, I mean, this was before I came, we kept it going over the years, and we've done a little work to it to keep it going, but it's finally hit the dust.
So is your recommendation that it's on its last leg, or we can work with it?
Oh, it's gone. They called me one day and it was buzzing through the speakers through the whole school, so I pulled the plug on it. That was the only thing I could do.
The last, we had last year, I hate to take it out, we just started really like that, we just patch it together a couple of times, and then the last one.
So from what I'm hearing, I mean, obviously with the hardware that's there, the new brains could be put in at about 31,296. And they're gonna give us 1 year, so they're gonna test it all out to make sure it works, and then we have 1 year from that point on. And if something breaks down or whatever, or maybe some hardware needs to be installed, then they would be able to, from what I'm hearing, then they'd be able to identify that for us without you, Mr. Little, or your crew having to go through with, after 2 weeks of it being on there, something goes out in this hallway or the cafeteria, they're gonna come back in and figure it out and get it going, so.
And I think that is also a safety measure, that we get that system going,
So is your recommendation to do the brains and then have the warranty there for a year, or to replace the entire based on the 3
I
quotes?
would say that the entire system, because, we don't want to get in a situation that we have to communicate with the building, and we don't have a mechanism to be able to communicate with students if it's an emergency, kids are dynamic, and so, it's a will of the board, but I'm just saying from a student development standpoint, that they need to be able to communicate with an intercom system that works well at all times, especially in our current situation.
Well, what I was just saying, what I heard is he said that the one that would do the brains will make sure that it's fully functioning at 31,000 versus 105,000, and we'll have a whole year making sure that it works.
Sure, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't read the price proposal before we go to see it, but this is,
I mean, I don't wanna spend $70,000 less and then not work, but I mean, they're giving us a 1 year to make sure that before they leave and if the brains are installed, everything's gonna be fully functioning, and then we've got 12 months from that point to make sure that it's fully functioning. That seems reasonable.
yeah.
I mean, that's just my thought about it.
My purview is coming from, they've gone so long without one,
Right.
we haven't had a system probably, how long?
It's been breaking ever since.
It's been great,
since I got it.
but, I mean, the last time that last one was on, I'd say, spring of, or last fall, it's been a while, but they've not had it. And a lot.
What's the installation time, Mr. Little?
If you go with a full, replacement, they said it would probably take most of the summer. This is Prime Logic talking, because, you know, it's a ball of wires about that big around that they're gonna have to run to every room I don't think that it will take but several days, once he gets the system. Now, if he runs into a problem, you know, with having to trace a wire down or something like that, then, you know, it could vary on that.
I'm by no means a expert in this, but as far as technology goes, we're talking about this was installed in the 90s, and we're putting the brand new brains in, as we're calling it. I mean, sure, it would probably be able to work, but you're probably doing adapters to get it to work on old wires and stuff like that. If you entirely rip out the guts, do the whole thing, you're future-proofing. So, I mean, if I look at this, if I was networking a whole building, I wouldn't use Cat 3 or whatever was in the 90s. I'd be using Cat 7, which is today, which is faster speed, so on and so forth. That's just my 2 cents as far as I see it technology-wise. I mean, 90s to 2020, that's a huge difference.
And that was what some of them said, you know, they did not really want to, even the guys that were just gonna put the brains in, you know, they were kind of like, I'm gonna put this in, but if something doesn't work, then you just pay me extra to fix it. But he was the only one, he said that he would do that, but once again, like Jesse was saying, you're using wires from back in the 90s. And who's to say after a year, another one doesn't go down even, there you are.
So board, I mean, as far as what we've heard here, and I say this in jest, if the board decided to do the full thing, they're not gonna pull it all out, they'll put it under the homestand to the football field, right? Like they're gonna haul it away and dispose of it.
I don't want to see any of it.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna be honest with you, I want it gone.
Well, there's one that's 105, 115, 145, correct?
I think 115 was the lowest, so let me go back. Yeah, 124.5. Prime Logic is 115, that's the lowest.
Exceed 145.
Exceed was 145, and Mississippi Long was 124.505.
And you made a point to say that the Prime Logic is a separate system.
It is a voting system.
It's a voting system, so you only have one person who can, or one company that's authorized to work on it.
Right. They're the only ones that can work on it.
And so if something happens and they can't service it anymore, then you have to decide, where are they located at, this Prime Logic?
I want to say Tupelo or Saratoga. I can't remember which one it is. Let me see if I can find it. I'll talk to some video on that.
But what I was saying is that, like, if they decide, well, they're no longer gonna be that authorized person, and they ship that to Nashville or Birmingham or something else, and you have to deal with the authorized person for that territory.
There's a B&E equipment that was in Meridian that I've told they can work on it, but they cannot bid on it. You know, they cannot come down here, they cannot come here and put it in. But I've been told that they can work on it because they work on the one at the middle school that Prime Logic put it in. Tupelo.
Mississippi Alarm, they're local, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's a 1-year warranty.
Yes, ma'am.
On the new system,
Yes, this is one
parts and labor.
approximately.
All right. Is there anything else you want to present?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I can keep on going for a while. The cameras on the outside of the middle school, you know, we talked about, in the parking lot not working. I have 2 quotes. This is one, $7,440. exceed is $9,650.
So that's just on the outside cameras?
That is in the parking lot, out front, and the cameras all the way around the building.
Right next to everything.
At middle school.
And is that tied into the working ones inside the building, or does it even have its own separate system?
It ties into them, it ties into.
Did we include that in cost for any of the matches? Right, so I just wanna reevaluate our in-house grants and maybe it's a little time, make sure that this is not cost that we get a match grant to replace security, things that are related to security, business standpoint. So I'll have faculty do that research, and before we say yay to anything that's related to security, we'll see that we accompanied with the grant first.
And would the intercom system also be part of that?
I
I just gotta ask, I mean.
You know, that's a good question. I mean, I look at it as a safety feature, but I don't know.
Well, it is, but the impact grant is only $40,000.
Yeah.
Right, okay. All right.
We looked at several, playground equipment at several schools. And I've been online, I've talked to several different people. One company would sell us, this company does not install. So this price here would be, they would ship it to us, and then we would have to have it, put together. For 2 playgrounds, I picked one that was bigger for Franklin, because we would be taking 2 old ones out and adding just one decent sized one, and then the one at sale that the floorboards and all that was starting to break loose and rust out. So I picked the one that's about the size of that one for sale. If we went with this company, just to buy them and have them sent to us, would be $23,470.29. I spoke with another.
Excuse me, is that for both Franklin and Zale?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That would be one playground for Franklin and one playground for Zale. Then I spoke with another company that sent me several of them, and they actually install and will take out the old ones that we have. And for one of them, it was $13,218. That is to remove and wait a minute. Sorry, my papers got okay, here it is. I had it behind it. This is Wonderwoods out of Madison, Mississippi. One of theirs was $25,997. That is to tear the old one out, put the new one in. The wood chips would be, and it would have new wood chips, ADA ramp, and the plastic borders. They would put that all the way around it. One of theirs was $25,997.
You said one of theirs, that would be just for one playground, or that would be?
One playground. Okay. The other one, that's a pretty good size. I think I've got 3 from this company, because one was pretty good size. The next one was,
Materials, metal and composite, or are they wood, or?
they're plastic.
Okay, that's what I said, just make sure what they're constructed.
Yeah, they're up to standards of this time. The next one was $18,105. Of course, you know, it's a little bit smaller. And then the smallest one that I went through and picked out was $15,900. Okay.
From those three quotes you just gave, which one of our students, if you don't mind, would, fit into each of those prices? You gave one quote for 25, one for 18, one for 15.
The 15,000 is the smallest one. I would say it would go through the sale, and either one of the other two could go at Franklin. Because like I said, Franklin, we have two that we will be pulling up and putting one back down.
Okay, so either of those would be Franklin. What about Fairview?
I have not looked at, Fairview. They have a pretty new one over there. And then they have a lot of swings. I didn't know if y'all would want to pull the swings up and put a playground there. I just really concentrated on those two right now to kind of get an idea of which way we want to go. And to get several, different prices of several different sizes. I mean, we could pick, if you wanted to like Fairview, out of those three. You can say, I want one of these at every school, but we already know what the price is. Any of them that, they have some that are a lot bigger, and then they have some that are just, they step up on and step right back down. So I kind of picked the middle of the road to get those three quotes with. I mean, I was just saying those two out there are the most, Sale and Franklin are the two I think that are really needing something replaced there. So that's, I mean, we could order three of the smallest ones and just stick them wherever we wanted to.
Well, I think that would be good, and I think, obviously we, went through and we've got our spreadsheet and everything. And if we could, I mean, I know that you've done, and I appreciate a very thorough job of getting this information, but since we didn't get it before the meeting, is there any way you can just put all that together and have it sent to us so that when we come back, we can actually go through and find out what the recommendations are and go from there? I mean, as far as like looking at what you outlined, the small ones, and of course, we know about the intercom, and then Dr. Life, maybe you could even just, if you see, like, over this intercom or this or that, you could make like an action or something to identify this would be the recommended, and then at the board, we can come back and decide, okay, here's the project we've identified as immediate action in tier 1, and this is your recommendation, and that lines up with financials of the money we want to allocate to this project, or whether we want to go with, instead of the larger, playground, we go with the mid-tier playground, or whatever it is, and so that way we can really put those numbers together and also make sure it lines up with how we identified each one of those in our spreadsheet, so we're staying in sequence with what we're trying to do.
I'm sorry if I didn't say that, but that is a tier 1.
No, I'm not that.
What if you may want us to do is take a spreadsheet and maybe just create another column and us to select based on the post in the best interest of the student. So we can say this is our recommendation of what we want at this particular facility, and then line up the financials and then present it to them so they can say yeah or no.
Okay. Right. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is because whether it's the life of the stadiums or the playgrounds or any of those other things, it'd be easier just to see them all at once, and then at that particular point decide, okay, out of the tier 1s, these are the ones we need to go ahead and get done, and then work our way through it. And if there's something that we initially thought was a tier 2 but really need to be addressed because it kind of overlapped with what we decided we wanted to do here, you need to also incorporate that. It just slides things around. So, but I think that might be the best thing since we don't have all that information. I know you've got it, but it'd be hard for us to kind of. I've been trying to, as you can see, keep notes.
Yeah.
And
I'll get all this printed out.
but you're a lot more organized. I don't want to mess you up.
Okay.
So if we could do that, then that would probably be the best way to do it. Is that okay with y'all board?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that way we can get it all
Okay,
together.
we'll take care of it. Between
Yeah.
us, the team will get it organized, you do the work, we'll get it. And the work has been done, we have it already. No stress.
You want me to go
we'll come back to it. I know you got it all, but I started looking at my notes.
I'm on all of them.
Yeah. Now, were you about done, or do you have like the
I
rest
just
of
had
the?
two more.
Oh, okay, well, then go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I pulled up the spreadsheet, and I was like looking at like 47 on this one, and I was like, okay, those are tier one, so.
Okay, I take it back, I only have one, and then I have
Okay.
the Franklin Bicentennial where I've.
Okay, okay.
All right.
I see it was on down the list, so. The other one I have, it is tier one, is the concrete work at Cook and at the high school. I've only gotten one quote back on that. The high school was $13,218. That's on the west end, right there in front of the old office. And then Cook was $7,708.50. And that should include on the, the walkway where we were looking at, it was kind of chipped up a little bit, and then the handicap ramp by the door, we're gonna pull the grate out. That is that, plus everything that was on the front of it was pulled.
Where it's kind of marked off on the front of the bus lane is.
Right.
So.
You want me to wait on the Franklin?
No, go ahead.
A while here? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I wasn't trying to rush you. I guess I just I was looking at the spreadsheet here, and then I thought,
Yeah.
we're gonna have another Saturday 13-hour.
No.
No, I have this printed out for you, don't worry.
All right.
When you look at the woodwork at Franklin, I have two quotes, and they're north and south of each other. One company says that there's a minimum of 50 foot for $10,600. And anything over that 50 foot, they will do in 10-foot sections of $2,120 every 10 foot after that. Of course, it's not to exceed cost. He gave me the big number of if he had to replace everything, so I know we won't even, because it was like $162,000. But we know we do not have that much right now. Cook Development, out of Aberdeen, they gave me a not to exceed $30,000. If they make it halfway around the building and they get $30,000, that's where they stop. And then we'll go from there. They will not do any work on the woodwork over $30,000. The reason that they bid it this way is because you're standing on the ground and looking up, and we don't know, you can see a few areas that are bad, but once you start taking something out, you can't tell what's behind it. So that's why they can't just say, I'll do it for $30,000, and then they only make it halfway. So they gave me a not to exceed. If they hit, this company says if they hit $30,000 before they're finished, that's where they'll quit. They'll stop right there, and then we'll back up and, kind of go from there. The other guy saying anything over 50 foot, every 10 foot that he puts on and repairs will be $2,120. As far as painting, Cook Development also gave me a bid on painting, $25,166. Quality Painting gave me a bid of $33,790. Parker Robinson gave me a bid of painting of $30,000. And then we also talked about the pressure washing around the school. Cook Development also gave me a quote, $6,600 for pressure washing. Parker Robinson's quote was $4,995. And then Two Vets pressure washing was $2,650. And that's
Can you repeat that last amount? What was the last
the
amount?
last amount was $2,650. 2 beds, pressure washing.
So there's, obviously I know the pressure wash is separate, but the woodwork, or I said woodwork, but the replacing before the painting goes up, the companies that gave you that are not companies that would be painting, would be 2 separate companies.
One of the companies, well, they bid everything. They bid the woodwork, the painting, and the pressure washing.
That's the one that was $2,100 after input, after, so far, are there
No,
the
they're the
$30,000
not to
that
exceed
will come
30,000.
back, 30,000,
Right.
30,000, 30,000, whatever it is?
That's Cook Development out of Africa.
What is all right, not to exceed 30,000, but they would do, replacing the wood, painting, pressure washing, all three,
They bid it on all three of them.
and that was their total price.
That was just for the woodwork.
The 30,000 was woodwork, and then the painting was the 25,166.
Right.
And
Pressure washing was $6,600.
okay, so if our, and I know we ain't got our financials, but I think we have about $51,000 in the 16th section of fund balance. So just FYI on that we can use that for the improvements there. Without getting into Fund 11, there's one at this point. Well, right, they do woodwork, I guess, all the way around the building.
They do all of it. They would do the woodwork. They bid it on everything, the woodwork, the painting, and the pressure washing.
Their pressure washing was the $6,000 versus 2,600.
Right.
I mean, there's a pretty big range there for the same project. Two beds, I assume, is two beds.
Two bedrooms, yes, sir. Every morning.
So when we look at this to see actually which companies we will look at their bids, their quotes that they're giving us, will we have it listed, like for, cook development, or painting, if they have 20 years experience, all right? So they have this for, and then their quotes beside it, so we can make some logical.
To be honest with you, I've never had any work with Cook. They, bidded on the asbestos removal at Hunt. And the day that we had the meeting there, he and I talked for probably about 15-20 minutes. And he was interested in, doing some work for us and everything. So I gave him the paperwork so he could become a vendor. And as far as any work that he's done, I really don't know. I'm just going on, his word of being in business for several years. And they're the ones that bid on the concrete work at Cook and Columbus High. And that's what I asked him. I said, what all do y'all do? And he said, we got guys that do everything. So he wanted to bid on everything. So I met with him and that's the numbers he gave.
I said, all licensed and bonded, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, he's good to go. He's did all his paperwork and everything that I guess satisfied the school system to come to him.
Where is Cook Development based?
Aberdeen.
This is the Aberdeen.
Yes, ma'am. J. Morgan is the other company. They're out of Columbus. He's done several jobs for us, smaller jobs. So he's the other. That beat it on the woodwork. Sorry if I didn't tell you.
So we got two companies
On the woodwork. Jay Morgan does a bit of painting. We actually have three that are bidding on the painting. And three that are bidding on the fresh wash. For 50 foot. And then anything after that, he would do the 10-foot section, but we know it'll be for 21, 20. After that.
All right. Well, that's a lot to think about, so. Well, thank you very much for pulling all these details together.
We'll get it all printed out.
We'll get organized for the board.
All right. Thank you. So next, we go to, hunt, discussion of hunt recovery, review expenditure, and reimbursement, payment project. Mr. Taylor has been so patient sitting there. Thank you so much.
All right, thank y'all. Up here this afternoon, we actually had the pre-construction conference this afternoon at the high school for the asbestos abatement. Gulf Services out of Mobile is the contractor, and they have a 30-day contract, so their time starts tomorrow, and the contract is for 30 days. So they'll be up here every day working to get the asbestos, mainly on the floor, so you can get the floor cleaned out. Before the meeting with the asbestos contractor, I walked the roofs with the Advanced roofing contractor. All the roofs are dried in. They're now just doing trim work, the sheet metal work, the gutters, the downspouts, and all that's wrapped up. He said in 2 to 3 weeks. Me and Steven's doing, there it is. We walked through the annex building today. It was the first time we walked in the annex building where we didn't have 3 inches of water to walk through. It was really, seeing progress there. Dry. We're going to see if we can get some of the plywood and some of the paper that they put on the windows when Weathersby did the weatherization. Now that the roof's in, a little bit of water can get into broken windows. It would be much more helpful to get light in that building and to have ventilation, especially in the wintertime with the low humidity. Take care of some of the mold and mildew issues in there, so we're going to try to get some of that done. Also met with Kevin Stafford, with Neil Schaefer this afternoon, walked the site with Kevin, looked at some drainage issues in the courtyard, looked at some of the damage done after the tornado by the power company when they came in and tore out all the overhead lines, and looked at the parking lot and work there. And also Kevin's working on a job with the city to do some accessible crossings there on 20th Avenue, 20th Street. So met with Kevin, met with the asbestos abatement contractor and roofing contractor. So things are going well. We're working with Dr. Levant still on developing the plans for the put it back into service as a facility, and those should be ready to be at after the first of the year. So we're still on schedule for that.
Okay. Board, is there any questions?
Could you repeat the last thing you said about bids?
Yeah, when we're looking, we had a conference call, I guess, between Jennifer last week. For Thanksgiving, we've got our engineers on board. We're using the corporate leg out of Tupelo, we're doing mechanical electrical. They're on board, working on mechanical electrical systems. We expect to have the documents ready for everybody's review with FEMA and MEMA and the insurance adjusters and the school district review and all kinds of issues also after the first of the year. And then once everybody gets everybody's approval, mainly make sure the insurance company get with the attorney, Mr. Enfield, and make sure that everybody agrees on the scope. And it's so critical that everybody agrees on that scope so that when we do bid it, there's no questions on who's paying for it.
And the other question, I'm glad you brought that up, is when should we request our next tranche to be paid for the repair? And what I mean by that is that, you know, when we've been spending down the money market account that they paid on the initial fund, and if we know this next phase is gonna cost $2 million or $3 million or whatever it is, you know, is that, once they approve and say, hey, we approve the scope of this work or this part of the project and this part of it, then we can ask the insurance company to go ahead and pay that amount. Instead of us having to front that money when the money market is.
Yeah, I think once we agree on the scope, and we'll have an estimate to compare it there, at that point, they should go ahead.
Because I mean, obviously, we don't want to go to zero and then start spending district money on it
Exactly.
without them already going ahead and paying another tranche into.
That's why it's so critical to get with the adjuster, insurance company, right, if we agree on the scope. And then once you get it, it costs what it costs, but, the scope, because it is a replacement policy, so.
So does anyone else have any questions about that aspect of it?
But it is looking good though, all the roofs, it's just, first time I've walked through that facility in a year and it's been dry. And there's no, you can just feel the difference in it, it really is. You can see progress, real progress. And the site looks good too, especially there to the north where that been cleared, it really looks nice there, so it's really.
Perfect. Any other questions about the roofing? I think it's finishing up on time, and asbestos 30 days out to be done, and we'll receive bids, I guess, in January to consider with respect.
Yeah, we'll go ahead, we'll wrap it up, but we'll go submit the drawing, we're gonna get it, all kinds of district approval, and insurance adjusters, and FEMA, and for the district approval too, so before we get out, we'll be ready to do that first.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we go to our contract renewals update. Board, is there any question about the contract renewals? All right, next we have the bicentennial planning of Franklin Academy, February 12th, 2021. Just a couple things I'll say, in our last call is that, we're continuing to work out the entertainment aspect of Dr. Brown. He's doing a phenomenal job assembling students and the program itself. We're still working to make key contacts with respect to those dignitaries that will be here with us to celebrate this milestone, and also measuring out Plan B and Plan C, weather, COVID situation, what we might have to encounter. So I know those are some of the moving parts at this point. Is Ms. Young or Dr. White, do y'all have any other comment to add? I know we'll be making another meeting later this week, if I'm not mistaken, or next week.
We met with a community member from the Episcopal Church who has a degree in stage management on Friday for a couple hours, and have looked at her vision of the setup for outside and inside, and working on some logistics. The decoration committee has visited the site, and we will start writing down some intimate details about seating and direct arrangements for the bicentennial. So it's been a team effort, but it's been really great to get community members to assist. The Episcopal Church is going to give us a lot of furniture to use to make sure that the event is special for the community. And so it's been a great way to connect to other people in the community who wants this bicentennial to go on. So we did that on Friday for the college.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? All right. So next we move on to, yes, Holly?
I'm sorry, can you go back to number 3? Part of what I had given the board is a request to transfer funds from the money market.
Yes, okay. Oh, yes, okay, I'm sorry about that. I didn't see it in my entry here. And so that's to approve the $452,549.67.
Yes, sir.
To move that from the money market back to
District maintenance.
District Maintenance Fund 1120.
No, it's going to cover Fund 3029, but right now it's coming out of 1120's bank account.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's where the money will be deposited back to. So do I have a motion to approve the transfer from the money market account back to? Sounds like a drum roll. have a motion to approve the $452,594.67 be moved from our money market account into, our fund balance 3029. Okay, that's been motioned by Mr. Sparks, do I have a second? That's been seconded by Ms. Young, any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify by the right hand. Yeah. Now we go to, and thank you very much for pointing that out, I apologize, didn't have it on here. Now we go to our information. We have the school board evaluation, our self-evaluation, the board attorney evaluation instrument, and the superintendent evaluation instrument. If you would print this information off and go through your own analysis of each. I got with Ms. Woodard, and she was able to post the meeting for, as we kind of had a consensus for Saturday, January the 23rd at 8:30 a.m. We'll be down the hall. We normally are. We'll be socially distanced, but we'll be down the hall in a small room, and then of course from there we'll go through all these different instruments that we have to do by the end of January. So, does anyone have any questions over any of these evaluations? They're pretty standard what we've been doing all throughout. Next, we go to the consent agenda. We have our policies for consideration at the January 11th. You have before us here IDDFAA and JRAF. Then we have our academic dates to remember, athletic dates to remember, high school basketball and middle school basketball, high school soccer. Then we have our board meeting. Our review will be January the 6th, 2021 on Teams, 11:30 a.m. And our regular meeting will be back here at Brandon at 6 o'clock on January the 11th. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with the right hand. It is unanimous. Do we have anyone signed up for open forum? Okay. Moving on to the Office of Business Management, we have our monthly financial statements for October 30, our fund balance reports for October 31st and November 31st. Unless I'm looking at it wrong, it says November 31st on my screen. That's like the will I saw that was dated May 32nd, 1982. So, but anyway, so it is October 31st and November the 30th. And then we have our revenue budget report for those same time periods. And we have our expenditure budget report and certification summary reconciled bank statement. And this is to get us up to where we're running on a month-to-month cycle instead of running like a month behind every time we get our financials. So, do I have a motion? And thank you very much, Ms. Rogers, for making that happen. So, board, do I have a motion to approve the financials? Has been motioned by Ms. Cox. Do I have a second? Has been seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with the right hand. It is unanimous. Now we go to our abnormal tax collection report. Board, is there any question about the abnormal tax collection? Now we have our fund balance trends. Any questions about this report? The bank and cash balance yearly comparison. Board, any questions? Athletic events report. Any questions on this as presented? Then we have our approved budget amendments for October 31st and November 30th. Questions about it? If not, I need a motion to approve them. Has been motioned by Dr. Shoemake. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Cox. And this is for the October 31st and 30th together. So, have a motion, second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify with the right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to our consideration discussion to approve fixed asset disposals, and then also we have the approved lost fixed asset disposals to dispose of as junk. So we'll take 1.12 and 1.13 together as one. I need a motion to approve. motion by Ms. Cox, I'll make the second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, I need a motion to pay the docket. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Spark. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Cox. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next is the federal programs IDA monthly financial review for October 31st and November 30th. Board, is there any questions about either of the reports that's presented? Yes, Dr.
Yeah, I just have a general question about where we are on available spending on some of these. Just for example, there's an IDEA preschool that started in July of 18 and it finishes about a year from now, and it's 56% available to spend. So I'm assuming that's under control. Then we have one school improvement, 1003A, from July 2019, and to about this time next year, it's 80% available. So what I'm looking at is to make sure that we not have to that we're drawing it down if we need to. And y'all feel comfortable with that?
Yes. You go ahead. Okay. Yes.
Okay, I just don't wanna not spend it.
Yes.
Okay. And I've got a couple of other ones, they're in the 70 or 89% ones that are out to 21, that's gonna give you a lot faster, obviously. Okay, I just put it out there for what it's worth.
And I don't know, as far as some of these, with the COVID situation we're all dealing with, are they giving flexibility on, I know they've had hard, fast, these are the dates you had to have these dollars spent, and or it would impact your future allocations now, are they giving more flexibility to those dates?
All of the 19 projects, if you kept their original dates, should have ended September 30th of this year, and we would have until tomorrow to draw funds down to make our request. But because of COVID hit, and there were a lot of programs that we didn't get to implement, there were summer programs that we had some of these funds set aside for, none of that ended up happening. So they've given us an additional year to spend those funds.
And are they restricted to those allocation points,
Yes.
or can you say, well, we need to use them for this over here, even though it would still be a qualifying federal
We
use
would have
of
to
it?
do a revision to the application
Okay.
if we change the scope of what's going on with it.
Okay.
And I would assume if COVID, let's hope it doesn't, continues to wreak havoc on programs, they would probably extend it another year, or is that undeniable?
We don't know, but, I have said that we have been cautiously spending our money. We've done a better job as a district of detailing programs that we need in the district based on COVID-19. And so I feel that as we continue into next year, the hope, for vaccination, but we still have to be cautious that we may have to do some similar things in the fall, maybe in different elements in order to get out of COVID. But, we are, being more detailed about how we program. So I just think the money that we've allocated are for current programs, that we move money around to accommodate, the mitigation of COVID-19 from an academic standpoint, so.
All right.
Are they getting reimbursed appropriately?
Oh, yes.
And good timing.
Now, next we move to the office of the superintendent, superintendent travel. Dr. Weiss, anything you want to share with us outside of what you've already shared?
Yes, I did travel to the Capitol, during the last, board meeting. I was able to, meet with the Senate Education Committee to discuss, the modified, calendar with our traditional public school district. We just detailed some of the, issues related to, learning loss and, accommodating students and, intercession. We did have our first stakeholders meeting today. We had over 75 participants. Dr. Childers invited the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, Parks and Rec, and, several faith-based community organizations. And they got a lot of great information. Our primary goal before we have our spring, stakeholders meeting is to make sure that people are getting the correct information about what it is and what it can do. And so now that we've had 75 people to listen to it, they can be in the community to answer the right questions and the perspective of the modified calendar. I did get a call from Starkville today. They would like to get our calendar and the survey we sent out. This is a very thoughtful process. This is something we started in March. I started talking to Bonnie Granger, I talked to Corinne in March. This is not something we just thought about last week when I went to the education committee. This is something we thought about and did research extensively during this time. We did work out the physical elements before we even sent out the survey about what we would have to do as far as months in time if we were to have a modified calendar. So this is a well thought out process. I really want to thank the committee, which is Holly Rogers, Debbie Murray, Dr. Lee, Billy Smith, and Mr. Chapman for running a great meeting we did as a team. And I feel like the good information is out there. And we look forward to having our spring parent and community meeting in January. We meet as a committee on Wednesday. We're going to look at what we will, the committee, the questions that were asked, and just think it through, and then come up with a viable date that we feel, and then we'll get back with you. And that will be the meeting that I would like for the board to attend. And so we have the information out there. And I'm sorry, I'm just a very methodical person as far as process and communication and making sure the right things are happening in a sequential way. But we look forward to having that meeting in January, and I will send that information with an appointment once we work out the logistics and how we would like to do it. We had a great meeting today.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Next, we go to superintendent updates and reports. Dr. Foster, anything to report? Okay. Next, we have the consideration for approval of Walden University field experience placement contract. Board, I need a motion to approve.
So
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Has been seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have one question about this. The section that talked about compensation for the teachers with whom these, I guess, students would be working. So there's a sliding scale on that. I think it's like $160 or something. Honorary, calling it honorary. I was just curious.
Okay, and it won't be teachers, this is an admin contract for a person with administration. And so, they won't be receiving compensation.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. What?
This is an admin, field experience, and they won't be receiving compensation.
So there's no compensation, but it's in the contract. I mean,
and I'll look at it in more detail, but it was my understanding that they would not get paid for the field experience at 3 locations.
Okay. I mean, and also in what was on, unless I've got the wrong thing, there are places where it talks about Ohio licenses and Minnesota licenses would need to be corrected. I'm looking at the part that says honorary stipend. Cooperating teacher who mentors a candidate for 12 administration teaching experience. And a teacher preparation program will receive $160 stipend after submitting W-9.
I think that's a moot point because it's an admin.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all administration.
And what we would be signing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it is not a teacher, student teacher, it is an administrator.
Well, and I guess the other things, like I see, you know, when I was reading through, I did see like it said valid OH for Ohio teaching license or equivalence, like the cooperating teacher qualifications. And so is that the person that they're working with, or the person in our school has to have an Ohio license?
Maybe because of the visual, well, it's an online university.
Right.
I want to check with this, but this didn't go through.
Like, I didn't know, like, if that's the case and they're doing this, does the State Department of Education have an issue with, because they wouldn't be licensed in Mississippi teaching students in the class?
We have responsibility, so they are to know that they can.
Okay.
The candidate would be working on 3 different schools for, admin schools. So these similar contracts we got done for Southern, State, ABW, which, they have to have certain amount of internship hours. We've been very, I should say, protective of a lot of people, we've done a lot of virtual, but this is generally students associated in this area that have been taking online classes that would like to complete their degree in the district that they're living in. And so they generally, want to come here because they're close or nearby. So we look at it as recruitment, but it's the same thing with education. It's just, the complexity of it is it's the online. And it doesn't look like NBW or state.
So, I mean, as far as like anything else, like they're gonna come, they're qualified, and you've approved them to be in the classroom, but there's not gonna be any financial outlay by the district for these personnel. And Mr. Gunn, as far as what it says in the contract here on page 3, page 2, you know, page 3 at the top of page 3 about the honoraria or stipends, then, I mean, they can't come back later and tell us, well, you signed this, you approved it, so now you gotta pay us all this money.
No.
Okay, all right, so that's good with me. All right, so have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify with the right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to the athletic director. Consideration and discussion to approve the revised job description for athletic director. Board, any motion to approve?
So,
That's been motioned by Mr. Sparks. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with the right hand. It is unanimous. Now we go to consideration and discussion to approve updated salary scale, 34 weeks and supplements for additional duties. Board, any motion to approve?
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Shoemake. Do I have a second? Has been seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
On the, do we currently have a middle school athletic director?
Last year, the board approved for additional supplement for middle school duties. And so that supplement went to the athletic director. And since the athletic director resigned, we were taking those funds, and that's why it's a name change, to just make sure that he takes responsibility for all athletic programs during this time until we open up the job. So no, we didn't have a middle school athletic director. The previous athletic director had that role.
Okay. Ms. Young, you have any questions?
Because I've always looked at the athletic director as being for the school district. I didn't know it was separated high school and middle school.
That was a decision by the board of trustees. It was to separate it. We did that last year, and we made an additional supplement for middle school. And this is just a contingency plan to cover us into the end of the year until we don't position. So that $5,000 had already been allocated for a supplement.
So it's already been there?
Yeah, it was already there, and then the person left.
It's set up, is that the purpose of the being approved tonight? So when someone is hired, this will be active.
Yes, and the only reason we changed it from middle school to high school without just athletic director, because that person is doing all the responsibilities right now. We're in a different situation with COVID. We just approved the job description, and so we'll start the search process at the beginning of the year.
just so you know, I mean, like, recommendations made to us to split that out. And so that's why the board made the approval that it did, and now it's being changed back to where it's just as a universal AD position. Because it, you know, the board made a decision based on the recommendation, we didn't decide we want AD here and AD there. Just to be clear about that. So, I know that's common sense, but I just want to make sure that we're clear about it. Okay. All right. So, so we have the motion and the second. Any additional discussions? If not, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. Any opposed? It does go 3-2. Next, we go to consideration and discussion to approve updated 2021 or 2020-2021 supplements for additional duties. I need a motion to approve. That's been motioned by Ms. Young. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. Yes, Mr. Cox.
I have some concerns that I'd like to bring to the board. I don't know if it's right to do this because, we're looking at replacing someone and it's not noted that it's interim. And this is interim, or what you just alluded to earlier, this is an interim position, but it's not noted here that it's interim.
It's just a supplement. We do supplements yearly. We make recommendations for supplements, and it's a supplement for athletic director additional responsibilities for this year. And so the supplements at the beginning of the year, we have to recommend for all supplements.
I'm looking at it.
Pardon me?
Yeah, the only recommendation on this list is why this is being presented is there's an addition to the AD, which is Mr. Davis is being shown right there. That's identified in red.
Mm-hmm. And this is not an interim position. So just say no, because at the end of the year, when it's done, we'll get the athletic director. Then that supplement will go to based on that recommended. It's not the position; it's the supplement for doing the responsibilities at this time and to the end of the year.
And it's $5,000 total, but it's prorated each month.
Correct.
So it'll just be through the end of this school year for the month remaining, not the full $5,000. It doesn't start over $5,000. If you have one person who has it in, say, July, and another person who starts in December, it's not $5,000 for the one that just started with it, and now you $5,000.
Understanding that, but it's more than $5,000 because that same person will get that ministry $5,000 also.
No, that was the correction. Is that we changed it from middle school to just athletics because he will not be just doing middle school. He will be doing all athletics until the end of the year.
Until the end of the year.
Correct.
And this is okay. So this is not a position that we are recommending.
No, that would have been on the personnel. This is a supplement recommendation on the supplemental scale.
So this person is also the offensive coordinator.
He's a football coach, and he's been an AD in the past, and he's been doing the responsibility since the former left to help out the school district.
You can look and see offensive coordinator. If you look down about 3 or 4 lines, you'll see the name there next to offensive coordinator.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But I didn't know if it was the same person. See, 94 and 5.
Great football, head football coach, right? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? If all in favor, please signify with the right hand. Any opposed? It does carry 3-2. Next, we go to consideration and discussion to approve staff personnel item. Board, I need a motion to approve staff personnel. The motion by Mr. Sparks, who, is that Mrs. Cox or Ms. Young? Made the second,
Which one?
Ms. Young made the second. Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by right hand. Any opposed? It is 4-1, it does carry. Next, we go to, item number 6, which is consideration discussion to approve contract between CMSD and NBW Audiology Services. And if we could, we'll also take the Curtis Optometry proposal, because they're both submitted by special education. If that's okay with the board, we'll take them both together. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So I need a motion to approve item 6 and 7.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Ms. Young, seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify by right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to, student attendance report. Boards, any questions on student attendance reports? Next, we go to the school safety, student discipline for the different locations and also the districts. Is there any question about the discipline reports?
I just wanted to reiterate that I did meet the deadline to write the state superintendent to be held harmless based on our ADA for 2021 school year. I did that before the holidays.
The ADA?
Right.
Right.
To keep our current MAEP funding due to our ADA and work with the supervisors with that and send it to the state superintendent per MPE policy.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Lott. Next, we go to our dropout report. Boards, any questions on the dropout report? The safety report, any questions on that? Number of incidents? No. The COVID-19 update, Dr. Lott, would you like to share?
Yes, we did see an uptick in the number of cases during the Thanksgiving holiday. We were praying that this week, and as I looked at the numbers, I have not finished the spreadsheet. They have gone down again this week from the Thanksgiving holiday. So we're just continuing to be safe and make sure that we're calling our employees and to talk to those employees that have been that tested positive to make sure that they're in good health. And we're just thanking God that thus far all of our positive cases have 100% recovered. So as a district, we're very happy about that.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Yes.
Yeah, last week Dr. Dobbs was asked if they could come up with a video to show the kids before they break for Christmas. I don't know when that's supposed to come out, but he and Fires and Dogs were enthusiastic about it. I don't know if anybody else heard that last Friday.
He does a good job of talking to one of the organizations within the state to get us that information to all superintendents. So whether he do it through a consultant or mass, they'll get us, if they complete it, they will get it to us on time.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, before we go to close determination, we have an item of consideration to approve additional funds to the bicentennial fund balance. We're finishing up the final cost of this, and I think we still have just a few left with respect to invitations and the cost of those, along with the monument and the others. So, Dr. Black, do you have information? So basically, this shows us the cost that we've spent throughout this period of time, the current available amount that we have. So, with respect to this particular amount, knowing kind of what's out there with the amount, and of course, any money that's not spent, we can reclaim back to Fund 1121, as well as, any fundraising that's done through the Create Special Fund can also go to offset these costs. So, would it be fair to say on $25,000 to put to the fund balance? and there's already about $5,000, in the account. So that would put it right at about $30,000. So would everyone be okay with the transfer of $25,000 to, the fund balance, which is Fund 1150?
Makes sense to me, but I don't know what was, y'all know what we're spending it on.
Well,
Yes.
we've got the, invitations for the bicentennial and the postage and mailing that goes with that, printing and everything. We also have the monument, and we also have the flag.
Yeah, and I think we've already purchased the flag.
Okay.
Or Franklin's already here, we just have to get the money in, and then anything that we use or any we will use that in, so that's the same.
And there's also some production costs, we have the pictures and other things that go into the actual entertainment of students. So,
And we'll have some additional essentials that are minor, like the photographer, this is a monument moment for the district, so they will be on my side.
I mean, the committee thinks 25 is good. I don't think that.
I mean, I think that's enough based on what we have here, that we should still have something we can pull back to 1121, and then from the money that's being raised through the Create Foundation, I know that goes through December 31st, but we'll also be able to come back to, 1121 unless we reverse it to the endowment decision. So, I mean, it's just all about, what the board elects to do. So do I have a motion to approve the transfer of $25,000 to Fund 1150 from Fund 1121?
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second? Has been seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with the right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to closed determination for executive session. I need a motion to go into closed determination. Has been motioned by Ms. Cox. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify with the right hand. It is unanimous. We'll be out shortly, let you know. minutes. Ms. Young made the motion, Dr. Shoemake made the second, it was a 4-0 vote. Then we took up the minutes, Dr. Shoemake made the motion, Ms. Young made the second, it was a 5-0 vote. And then returned to regular session, Mr. Sparks made the motion, I made the second, it was a 5-0 vote. Which brings us to the last item on tonight's agenda, to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks, do I have a second? Second by Dr. Shoemake, and I just want to say, I hope everybody has a safe, happy, and enjoyable Christmas. Look forward to seeing y'all back in January. And stay safe, that's right. So, all right, Eve? All right, so.
I want to see Dr.
So, you have all in favor? All in favor? We are adjourned.